I've just finished the 4th book in the Game of Thrones series, which is A Feast for Crows, and I just really need to talk about it, so I thought I would do a video right now and get it all off my chest, because what? Let's pretend there's a really cool opening right here. So before we go any further, this is going to be a very spoilery discussion. And yeah, if you haven't read up to A Feast for Crows, I strongly recommend that you leave. I'm sorry that my first booktube video is spoilery. Bye. So in this book, I felt like it was a lot more political, and it was a lot more of a build-up for me than the other books. It was kind of, you know, discussion and talking rather than action a lot of the time, but it was still really interesting. And although at some points I was getting a little bored, I knew that it was all going to come together. Even though I couldn't see how it was going to come together, I knew that it was going to come together and something big was going to happen. Maybe not as big as in A Storm of Swords, because that was pretty big. But I knew that, you know, that something is going to come together and something is going to change by the end of the book, and I really liked that. And I really just, so many things happen at the end of this book that I don't even know where to start right now. I'll just start by talking about the new point of view characters that we get in this book. Probably since Jaime got his first chapter, I really wanted to see inside Cersei's head, and I was not expecting that. I mean, I was expecting that she was going to be a grey sort of character, but I was expecting a lot more redeeming qualities from her as well, kind of like we saw with Jaime, where you really think he's the bad guy, and in a way he is, but then you also see this other side to him. With Cersei, it was very much, I really enjoyed reading her chapters, other than the fact that her chapters were very political, and a lot of it was kind of like the council, and sometimes I got a bit bored with that, which was funny, because Cersei was always joking and Jaime was always joking about the fact that the council is boring, and yeah, I think without that it would have fallen a bit flat for me. But the fact that the characters were making fun of it as well was kind of, you know, kept me going through it. So yeah, Cersei's chapters were very political, and obviously because she's the Queen Regent, or the Queen as she would want us to say, she has a lot to deal with, she has a lot going on, she is trying to build a council that she can trust. And in a way, I kind of sympathise with her, because she is looked down on in many ways because she's a woman, and it's hard because in a way I can see how she feels, but it's kind of taken her along a really dark path, and she feels like she has to be the lioness. She feels like she has to really prove herself, and she has to really show that she is Tywin Lannister's daughter, that she can rule the country and do everything that a man could do. Unfortunately, she's taken this on board a little bit too much, and she's just gone straight over the edge. She is just completely just transfixed with paranoia, and she feels like she can't trust anyone. She can't rely on anyone. When she wants something doing, she has to do it herself, otherwise it's going to go wrong, all of that kind of stuff. So in a way, I feel really sorry for her, because she can't bring herself to trust anybody. She's even lost faith in Jaime, who I think gave her a sense of security in many ways before now. But by the end of this book, she's completely lost him, and it's just wow. Cersei, wow. The lengths that she goes to prove to everyone that she is the queen is really scary. She's the scariest character in the Game of Thrones books, hands down. She's terrifying. She's completely terrifying. I would not want to sit in a room with her ever. Cersei's chapters were not what I was expecting, but in a way what I was expecting, and I really loved seeing the whole storyline of her building herself up and then at the end everything crumbling down around her, and you could feel it from the very start. Like, you knew that everything was going to go wrong for her at some point. All that bad karma was going to come around and destroy her, basically. She followed a self-fulfilled prophecy the whole way through her life. From the very moment that that witch woman told her that her brother was going to kill her and everything was going to be taken away from her, from that moment her life went off in a spiral. And I really loved how we saw that through the book. So she is convinced that Margaery Tyrell is the queen that is gonna, overthrow Cersei, and she ends up doing everything that she can to get rid of Margaery. She does not trust her, she does not trust anyone involved with the Tyrells, and she wants them all out of her castle, she wants them all away from her son, which is another thing I think that is interesting about Cersei. She is such a protective mother. She's almost like, she's a mother bear. She's not a mother lion, she's a mother bear. I'm really interested in seeing where her character's story goes, because we have Jaime, who has lost all, respect for Cersei. He's spent most of the book thinking that she's in a relationship with other people, and being unfaithful to him, and she has been unfaithful to him, and so he spends the whole book in, he's very bitter about that, and it builds and builds and builds. So by the end of the book he is completely done with her. So by the time she really needs his help again, he's gone. Her last lifeline is gone. So I'm really interested to see what happens to Cersei in the next book. Yeah, I'm completely blown away by Cersei's character in general. And the other new points of views that we see are really different from the other books, because in this one we see them for maybe one, maybe 2 chapters at the most, and then we don't see them again. So it's been really interesting in this book because it's so different, but at the same time I find those chapters with the minor characters so difficult to get into, and it really does take me a while to get through them and to make sure that I'm understanding what I'm reading and not just, reading to get to the next chapter to see the major characters again. But by the end of the book, all of these little stories tie together and it's really good, and I'm really happy that they all come together and I kind of understand, where those plots were going now. You've got the Martells and Sunspear and the Sand Snakes, and then you've also got pirates on the other side, and the Iron Islands, and Asha Greyjoy, who I absolutely adore, and I just really I really wanted her to win a Queen's Moot. I really, really wanted her to win that, and there's that moment where you think, yes, she's done it, she's won the King's Moot, this is amazing, she's going to be like the queen of the pirates. But no, her uncle has to steal it from her at the last minute, of course, because this is Game of Thrones. I'm very interested to see where Asha Greyjoy's character goes. I really want to see more of her, and I would really love it if we got to see more of her point of view in the next books. I'm also very interested to find out what happens with, is it Victorian Greyjoy, who was being sent by his brother to go to find Dany across the Narrow Sea. I'm wondering if Victorian is going to turn out to be something to do with Dany's prophecy, so she was supposed to be betrayed 3 times. I'm wondering maybe that's gonna be what happens, but also Dany really needs to get across the sea somehow, and there is a pirate guy heading for her with a ship and a crew and things like that. So that could tie together quite interestingly. Another very minor character that I wanted to mention was Pate from the prologue. It's more of a question really. I just want to ask if you have any idea how Pate ties into it all, because we see him in the first chapter in the prologue and he dies, and then we see him in the last chapter with Samwell Tarly, and I know that something's supposed to click, I think, in my head about that, and I really don't know. I'm really lost about that, so if anybody knows, please tell me in the comments below. Unless it involves spoilers for A Dance of Dragons, in that case, please do not tell me. I don't want to be spoiled, not again. Now I'm going to talk about some of the returning characters, and I'm going to start with Brienne, because Brienne is my baby and nothing bad can happen to Brienne, okay? I can't stand it when bad things happen to Brienne, and bad things happened to Brienne all the way through this book. It just didn't stop. There was like her really sad backstory about how she was bullied quite badly by all the guys at the castle, and they were really immature and they were betting on who could, bed her and all of that kind of stuff. And she had to deal with that because one of the guys ends up going with her on a little quest to find Sansa. And there were so many times through this book where you think she's so close to finding something out about Sansa here. She could just ask that one question and she could find out so much. And there's that moment where she finds Gendry, and I thought they were going to have a conversation and she was going to find out, where Arya had gone. But obviously not, because it's Game of Thrones and people keep meeting up and their interactions always, they just never happen how I expect them to happen, and they always go in a completely different direction, which is something that I really love about the books because it's very unpredictable. You don't know, the characters all have their own motives and you don't know how it's going to play out ever. It's just when they meet, it can go any way at all. So there were quite a few moments like that for Brienne in this book, and the ending, her last chapter, is so terrifying. I was completely shocked. I really thought that Lady Stoneheart was going to see Brienne and that they were gonna, have a lovely mushy reunion where they decide, oh hey, let's go and look for Arya and Sansa together because they both might still be alive. No. I could not believe that Lady Stoneheart wanted Jaime dead and that she's telling Brienne that that's the only way that she's going to survive. I can't deal with that. I can't deal with either Brienne dying or Brienne having to betray Jaime Lannister. I do not want to see that friendship split up, ever. I never ever want to see that happen, and it's probably going to happen. The chapter ends with her screaming one word, and I am so desperate to know what that one word is. I don't know what it could be, and I'm still very hopeful. I'm still thinking it's going to be that one word that, unlocks Lady Stoneheart's heart and makes her think, oh, this woman, I can trust this woman, Brienne, I've trusted her before. it's not going to be. It's probably going to be stop, and she's probably going to have to betray Jaime, and I'm going to be very upset and traumatised. And it's not going to end well for anyone involved, because it's Game of Thrones. I'm just so shocked by that chapter. I don't know how that's going to play out at all. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Another returning character we have in this book is Samwell Tarly. Lovely Samwell. He's one of my favourite characters, and every time I read one of his chapters I just feel like a proud mum or a proud older sister. He's just growing so much, and he still can't see that he's not, you know, the coward that he started out as. He still has so many fears, but I feel like people that have that many fears in day-to-day life and still manage to get through it, those are the least cowardly people, and I really need someone to tell Sam that. I need someone in the book to say what I just said to him and make him feel, you know, brave. And I really love the relationship with him and Gilly, or Jilly, I'm not really sure how to say it. I love their little relationship, and even though I was kind of sad that Sam, you know, broke his vows, I really loved that scene where they have the sexy times, and then after that the captain's daughter on the ship calls Sam out on avoiding Gilly, and it is just so hilarious. I loved it so much, and there was that really cute moment when Sam and Gilly have that conversation at the end, and Sam's like, I can't do this because I made an oath to the trees, and then Gilly's like, but Sam, we're on the sea and there are no trees around to see what we're doing, so we might as well. And I just loved it. I wish they could just, you know, take that baby and go to an island and live there and be happy and not have to deal with anything that's going on. But obviously that's not going to happen for them. Speaking of the baby, that's very interesting, and I was so shocked when I realised that. I think I realised it a few pages before the reveal that the baby had been swapped with the other baby. It was very shocking because I love Jon Snow, and like Sam, I think everyone was shocked that he would do something like that he would, you know, sacrifice one baby in the place of another. But like Master Aemon said, he summed it up really well, and he said something like, Jon Snow would never have done that, but Lord Commander Snow would have done that to save, you know, to basically for the greater good. Sam's last part is also very interesting when he gets to the Citadel and he finds the other High Master, Archmaster, and he meets up with Pate from the prologue, and that is a part of the story that I really don't understand. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know whether to trust Pate. I don't know whether to trust these people that Sam's, you know, blurted out the story to. The next returning character I'm going to talk about is Arya Stark. She's one of my favourite characters and one of the most interesting, I think. I think it's the characters that are most removed from the main story that are kind of interesting, because you're kind of always wondering when they're going to join back to the main plot and which characters they're going to meet. So in this book she meets Sam, but I don't think either of them realise that, which is a shame, because those two teaming up would be really, really good. So Arya in this book has a really interesting storyline, and it goes from her really trying to find herself in a new place by getting rid of her old identity. So she is no longer Arya Stark of Winterfell, she is now Cat of the Canals, and I thought that was really interesting. I also loved the description of the place that she's in. I've forgotten what it's called, but the canals and things, because we went to Venice in summer and the description brought me straight back to Venice. It was just so beautiful. I just loved reading about the canals and everything that went on there and all of the characters. I just thought it was really rich and really visual. I could really see it and imagine it in my head, which doesn't happen sometimes in Game of Thrones. For me, I find it quite difficult to picture some of the places because there's that many of them, but the canals really stood out to me in this book. I really loved them. And obviously we leave Arya in a really shocking moment. First of all, she kills someone, which I didn't actually notice she'd done until she confesses to the faceless man. I had no idea that she'd done that until she gave him the boots and was like, oh, you know, same old, I kind of killed this guy, and I was like, what? And then they give her the potion and she goes blind, and I was like, in this book, everybody has a shock moment, like a to be continued moment in the last chapters, and it's absolutely killing me. I really need to know what happens. I completely forgot to talk about Jaime Lannister, which is really weird because Jaime is one of my favourite characters. So Jaime's story in this is very interesting because he has kind of lost faith in everyone, because everybody's lost faith in him. Nobody thinks that he can, you know, keep his promises. Nobody thinks that he is honourable, and he's really trying to show in this book that he is honourable and he can be honourable, and he's just so much more mature in this book, I think, than he has been in any of the other books. I really love his character development in every single book. I just think it's amazing. I really like how he's not letting his amputation overcome him, and he's started training with is it Ilan Payne, and I kind of like the sad little friendship going on. It's not really a friendship and it's very one-sided, but I think it's what Jaime needs. I think he's very alone. He doesn't really have anyone to turn to a lot of the time. By the end of the book, I was really hoping for what happened. So when Cersei sent her letter saying that she really needed help, I kind of knew and kind of hoped that Jaime would not help her. It's really bad, but the whole book has been building up this like bitterness inside Jaime for Cersei. She isn't bothered about, you know, using him, and I think Jaime's finally realised that he's being used, and he has been being used all this time. So I was really happy that he said no to helping Cersei by the end of it, and in a way I think that might be the prophecy. So the prophecy that says that Cersei's brother is going to kill her, I don't think it's literal. I think it's more that Jaime not helping her is going to be her downfall, basically. And finally we get to Sansa Stark, who is now Elaine. I think Elaine Stone. Sansa is so interesting. I have no idea where her character is going to go in the future. She's really playing the game now, I think, under the guidance of Peter Baelish, or Littlefinger, which is it's really creepy. I don't understand my feelings on that whole relationship yet. It's really weird and not right, but at the same time Peter is keeping her safe, mostly for his own, you know, his own means, not for hers. Sansa is really in line to becoming Lady of the Eyrie, and I think Peter is also planning on revealing at some point that she is Sansa Stark, which means that she's going to get Winterfell back, and I'm quite excited to see how that develops. I really want Sansa to, you know, succeed. I really want her to have a nice story. At the moment, it's becoming nicer, but it's still not great. So, yeah, poor Sansa. And yeah, that's everyone, I think. I would say it's my favourite Game of Thrones book so far, because with the other books, I was spoiled repeatedly and knew everything that was going to happen. So I was waiting for those things to happen instead of really enjoying it. But with this book, I had no idea what was going to happen. I could really feel the tension building, and I knew that it was going somewhere. I just couldn't see what it was, and I loved that. I think that's the first time I've really felt that with the Game of Thrones books, because usually when there's tension, I know exactly what's coming because everybody has told me repeatedly what's going to happen. So I didn't really have the same enjoyment as everyone else where that big shock moment would happen. But with this book, that definitely happened, even if it was on a smaller scale. It was just amazing. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get stuck into the next book. But after that, I'll have no more books to get through for A Song of Ice and Fire, so I'm kind of thinking I might drag it out a little bit, and after that I might have to start watching the TV show just to get my Game of Thrones fix. Thanks for watching my very rambly discussion video. If you have any theories about what's going to happen next, I would love to hear them in the comments. Please like or subscribe if you want to, and yeah, thank you for watching. Bye! I will be spoiling quite a bit. A bird of prey just attacked my birds, so that was nice of him. Oh.